in the late autumn of 1997, I had the good fortune of visiting the beautiful and magical city of Prague in the Czech Republic. I whiled away my hours walking over the cobblestone streets, across the Charles Bridge, and on the way back sipping on warm grog in the early evening. I, of course, visited the most famous Glockenspiel in the old square of the city. Now, in my wanderings in the city, I found a very small bookshop. And in that bookshop, I found a collection of short stories from the Bohemian author, Paul Leppin. This collection of stories was called Others' Paradise, and they're gripping 1920s Prague accounts of life, challenges, and tribulations. The one story that really caught my attention was indeed called Others' Paradise. It's the story of someone called Master Thomas, who is a cobbler in the city. But his workshop is at lower ground floor with a window looking out over the street, and he would while away his hours working at his workshop desk or work table, using his cobbler's hammer to pound the leather of the shoes he was mending, or drive in the nails into the new shoes he was crafting. Now, from the vantage point of his work table in this workshop, he could only ever look out at the street. He could see the cobblestones, but he could only ever see the feet of the people who were walking by. Now, more importantly, the thing that he concentrated his attention on, of course, were the shoes that people were wearing. So he would spend his time working at his work table, looking up occasionally and seeing these shoes. He would see, for example, ladies' shoes with straps on the front. He would see low-cut boots laced up, gentlemen's low-cut shoes. He would see workmen's boots and immediately think of the working class. Or he would see two-tone gentlemen's brogues and think a symbol of the bourgeoisie. In fact, what he was doing by looking at these shoes was creating socioeconomic and psychological profiles of the people that wore these shoes without ever seeing these people. He could tell a lot from the shoes, from the pace they walked through the city, whether they were scurrying off to the shops, running to work, or strolling casually through the social spaces of the city. Low-cut lady shoes tied up, some even with flower designs on the shoes, or men in spats, again the bourgeois classes, low-cut ladies' boots, more spats from the gentlemen, low-cut boots for the men, and a pair of ladies' shoes as well. Now he'd come to his workshop day in, day out, week after week, month after month, with his head down at his worktop, occasionally looking up and seeing these shoes and making judgments about the people who wore them. But at the end of each day, the sun would begin to set, and a low, dim light would cast itself across his work table top and illuminate his workshop. However, he couldn't work in the dim light, so he would take himself home, eat a stale crust of bread, and drink a tepid cup of tea. The next morning, he would drag himself into the workshop, and once again, at his work table, he would look at the shoes on the street. Now, as he looked through these shoes day in and day out, he began to grow some resentment for the lives of the people who wore these shoes, walking through the streets of Prague. But one day, he was surprised. He looked up, caught his attention immediately. He stopped working. He felt a small flutter in his heart because before him, he saw a beautiful pair of red shoes. Not only was he captivated by these red shoes, but he became enchanted with the slender ankles and the very petite feet that were in those shoes. He immediately fell in love with the woman who wore these shoes without ever actually seeing her. Now, all of a sudden, he had a skip in his step. He came to work enthused and excited because he might grab just a little chance, a fleeting moment to see his beloved and beautiful red shoes. The shoes of his great love. And he spent time looking at these shoes again and again and again, and over weeks and over months. He was delighted every time the red shoes made their appearance. How after some time, those red shoes had vanished. He came to work almost in a frantic spirit, looking through the shoes again and again and again, but he would not see the red shoes of his great love. After weeks and months had passed by, he had lost all hope that he would ever see these red shoes again, let alone think about his beloved who was wearing them. But one morning, hunched over his work table, he looked up through the window, and what he saw shocked him. In fact, it probably broke his heart. He got so despondent and so angry that he pulled back the shutter and smashed his hand on the glass of the window from his workshop, because what he saw on the street in front of him was clear evidence that his beloved and his beautiful red shoes had clearly found another.